Hey guys, it's Grace and welcome back to my channel. I have my laptop here and I am ready to go. As you can tell, I'm wearing my glasses now. I'm sorry if there's any sort of reflection. I am wearing these because I do have LASIK surgery happening soon and I have to wear my glasses for a month. So today is the 2nd of September. Yeah, you'll probably be seeing this sometime next week, but my surgery is on the 16th, so we are 14 days away, 2 weeks away from my surgery. I'm really excited and also scared, but that's not what this video is about. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about budgeting. So budgeting is something that I have really only recently truly gotten into. I've always been someone who saves their money and tries not to spend a lot of money, and I've been lucky enough to have my parents pay for a lot of the stuff that I would need to pay for, such as my rent or my schooling, all that kind of stuff, my food, my gas. My parents have paid for all of that throughout my high school and college career, just because logistically, with how busy I am. I had a job all 4 years in college, but with rehearsals and how many classes I was taking with 2 majors and 2 minors to complete, my parents understood that I really didn't have a lot of time to devote to earning money while I was in school, and they really valued my focus on my schooling and furthering my craft. So I am very fortunate to have had that opportunity and have parents who really support me in that way. But now I am more so on my own. They're still paying for some things because obviously I'm not in New York yet, and if the pandemic hadn't been happening, I would be. So now they're still paying for some of my stuff so that I can kind of build up my savings and still continue to tuck away money so that I don't have to down the road later go to them and ask for money in New York, which is something that I really don't want to do. So that is why I think budgeting is super important, especially if you are planning on moving somewhere in the near future. I know that's kind of up in the air for us right now, but quarantine is the best time to start figuring out your financial life. I have this document right here, and basically it has all of the things that I could ever want to have in my budget, and it is in my Google Doc kind of form area. So I have alcohol, groceries, phone bill, rent, cat supplies, utilities, and then I've broken down the utilities by each thing: toiletries / essentials, my subway pass, Netflix, and classes. So that's something that's kind of specific to me personally, because I think as an actor you should always be learning. So I've put different pricing, or what I could find of different pricing, on this document so that I could kind of see what is happening. So something that I find really important is breaking it down by like the category or item, and then leaving yourself some space over here, and then the total amount to spend per month goes over here. And actually what you can do, I have a total down here at the bottom, and if you click on this you can sum up all of these little amounts, and then you can see how much the total is going to be for the month. I didn't include any of these because they are going to be dependent on what month it is. Obviously I'm not paying this much. I don't even know how much that is. So basically, just to do this sum, is that you go to the equals sign and then you can select a bunch of different ones, but you can do sum and hit enter, and then it'll pop up with what area you are. You can change it, but yeah, this is $1,000 total, but I'm not going to be spending $1,000 a month because it's 8-week program, 6-week program, that kind of stuff, so that doesn't really matter. But this is all of it. Yeah, so the phone bill kind of goes along with the internet, so that's kind of something that goes hand in hand. Groceries, obviously, alcohol, that kind of stuff might change depending on how expensive wherever I live is and what kind of grocery stores are available, but this is kind of like a general guess estimate based on what I normally spend. So rent is around $1,000. That's my goal. It might be a little bit less, it might be a little bit more, plus a pet fee because I would like to get a cat when I move to New York. And then cat supplies, I just did $25 a month, whether it's food or whatever. I figured that would be good. Heat, I know heat is included in all New York apartments. Water is also usually included in a lot of apartments. It kind of depends on electric. Some places will include all of the utilities, which is really nice if you can find it. Sometimes not so much. So I've put like split 2 ways, and this is the cost of it after it's been split. So this is what I would actually pay because I am living with a roommate. That's why it's split 2 ways. But if you weren't, then you would want to put in the full amount over here. Toiletries are essentials. This isn't like a necessarily true thing. Sometimes I spend less than this, sometimes I spend more. It just depends on when I run out of stuff and all that kind of stuff. And then subway pass, that's the most updated amount that I have seen for a subway pass. It might change in the coming months. And then Netflix split 2 ways. If you get like the one where you can be using it on 2 screens at once, this is the cost split 2 ways. So that's basically all of that. And I personally didn't include a like extra budget for things that I might want or anything like that. But if you feel like that's necessary for you and you tend to buy things online or you're a frequent online shopper and that really is going to affect your spending, then I would recommend putting in like a miscellaneous amount, and you can spend like, you can make it $50, you can make it $100 depending on what you can afford, but this is total about $1,500 with all of these per month, which honestly is not that bad in my mind because New York can be really expensive. So that's the goal. I would be okay if I went a little bit over or a little bit under budget depending on what happens, but you can also and should adapt your budget depending on what actually happens. Obviously, I have not lived in New York, so this is just an estimate based on research that I've done. That's another thing. You want to research the area, how expensive rents are, what you're looking to pay in rent, all that kind of stuff. And over here, we'll scroll to the top. This is one-time or annual purchases. So this is a whole different category. When you rent an apartment, they want you to put in a security deposit specifically for New York. It's usually 1 month's rent, so I just put $1,000 for the security deposit. Backstage annually, it's like $10 a month if you get the annual one, which is $120 total annually. But this is also, the things in blue that I have are things that aren't necessarily going to be paid for every single month, or are on more of like a not necessarily annual basis, but they're more of when the opportunity arises or when I need them. So with Backstage, I'm not sure if I'm going to subscribe to them. I'm gonna kind of see what my other friends are looking for auditions on and see how they're doing. But I'd rather not use Backstage if possible because I feel like some of their practices are a little bit questionable sometimes, or I've heard that people don't really like them. So it's kind of more of deciding when it arises. But security deposit is definitely something that I'll have to pay for. I did furniture / housewares. It could be more than $300. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. I really have everything that I need other than like maybe some decorative pieces that I might be purchasing when I move to New York. So that's more of like the cost of splitting a couch with my roommate because we don't have a couch. That's like the one thing that we don't have. And then any sort of decorative pieces that I want to purchase. And then headshots and reproductions. This is really relevant to me as an actor as well, so you probably wouldn't have this in your budget unless you are an actor. But this really depends on how my appearance changes. So my goal is to spend like $400 to $600 on both headshots being taken and also reproductions, which is the printing of your headshot, because that does take a decent amount of money to get as well. And honestly, people are gonna think that $400 might be too little for headshots, but I have a friend who knows a really great photographer that took his headshots and he paid $400. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for, is that around that price. Again, subject to change depending on what happens, but that's kind of what I'm basing my budget off of because of research. Cat supplies and fees. So this is the beginning fees. This is getting litter and food and all that kind of stuff and buying them in like a decent bulk size, and cat toys and a cat treat and all that kind of stuff, and the cat itself as well. So that is those fees. And then a website domain. So another thing that's really important to me is having a website that I really like and can work with. And so that is why that is in there. And normally, I think it depends on where you get your domain from, but you can do like 1 year or every 2 years, and it's only $40 for 2 years. So that's also something that's not going to be super often that I'm paying for that, and like $40 every 2 years, it's fine. That's really, I can afford that. Also a U-Haul, and this is more of, again, for the moving process, but with the $130, that is it split in half with my roommate. We're not exactly sure what's gonna happen because I'm not 100% sure if we will be sharing the same U-Haul, but if we do, it'll be that price. If not, it'll be a less price because I can get a smaller U-Haul versus needing a bigger one for all of our stuff. So we're gonna figure that out. We'll come back to that. This might change. And then this last one I just recently added. It's in the new Play Exchange, and it's an annual cost, and it's just $10, but you get to access a bunch of different plays from new writers, and I think it's a really good place for new monologues and stuff like that. But a lot of the plays that are on there you can't really access anywhere else, so I just wanted to add that in. But yeah, again, this costs really not that bad for security deposit and everything else, and headshots. That's really the biggest chunk of it. So I'm really not worried about either of these because I do have such a big savings. So I just deleted the amount of money that I earned because I wanted to show you guys my outline, but I didn't want to show you how much I'm earning because that's a little bit too personal. So basically what I do is I started out trying to do it by month, but it just ended up being easier writing out the date. So I'm just gonna fix this and put date instead. But this is all of my paycheck dates, so I get paid by the week, and this is basically all of the dates and then the total money that I'm earning each week. So I wanted to do this in order to track and see how my paychecks are differing from week to week, and then just trying to estimate like now how much I'm making per week, how much I should be making per week in order to meet my budget for the month. So that's something that's really useful, especially if you're getting into a new job and you don't really know how much you're going to be earning or anything like that. Tracking how much you get from your paycheck after taxes and everything like that is really super important, especially if you're figuring out if you can afford someplace or something like that. Obviously, this is all going to change once I move to New York because I'm going to have a totally different job. So this is more so just for me to track my savings goals and all that kind of stuff and figure that out and see how soon I will meet my next goal. Now I'm going to show you the outline of my savings tracker. So you can see my goals that are right over here. This is by the end of the summer. I would like to have $20,000 in the bank, $1,000 in retirement, and $1,000 in a pet bank. And these are all the dates that I have kind of checked in with my bank account to see where I am at moving towards that goal. So I think that I will be able to meet my goal by the end of September. I do have that surgery though, so it's really up in the air about whether or not my next couple of paychecks are going to push me to meet the goal. If I'm not at $20,000, I will be practically there. And then the $1,000 in retirement and $1,000 in pet bank are kind of more of an afterthought after I reach this goal. So once I get, $22,000, then that will be going in there. And I have also been trying to save up my cash tips to use for these rather than taking them from my bank account. So this might be more of a long-term savings kind of thing separate from my bank account. And then these are my goals by my move to New York City, which will hopefully be in May time. So obviously I haven't filled out any of these yet because I still haven't finished working on this goal, but I'm hoping to have $30,000 in the bank, $5,000 in retirement, and $2,000 in a pet bank, so that's around $37,000 total. And I think that's pretty reasonable. I'm hoping to move at the beginning of May, end of April. So I have been working at the job that I'm working at since June right now, and I've almost hit this goal, and I really think that it's possible for me to hit this goal before I leave in April. So hopefully that will give me a good start in New York City. Now that I've kind of broken down how I put together my budget, I wanted to talk to you guys about some of the most important things that I found when looking for a budget, all that kind of stuff. So looking into things is really important. Doing your research is really important because you're not going to know how much something could be until you do the research on it, especially with what area you're living in and all that kind of stuff. Different phone plans work differently in different areas, different cities, so one phone plan might be better in a certain city than another. Same with internet. I know that Spectrum, at least from what my research has said, is the widely used internet provider in New York City, so that's why I went with them. And then you can also get the phone plan from them for really inexpensive, so that's why I wanted to do that rather than another place or something like that. That's why I picked that. And same thing with heat and electric, that's going to fluctuate. Rent rates are going to fluctuate depending on where you're going. You can also always make a budget for multiple places if you're looking into moving multiple places and see what the cost is going to be. Then it's also really important to look at the cost of how much you could get paid in these places. Obviously, New York is going to have a higher pay rate than New Hampshire, where I live now. On average, I would say, as a server at the restaurant where I work, I make anywhere between $600 to $800 a week on average, and that's pretty average for everyone who works there, I feel like. But that's not necessarily the average of New Hampshire as a whole, whereas in New York you could be making anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a week as a server, depending on how much you're working and where you work. So there's a big difference, obviously, and that difference in how much you can earn makes a difference in how much your budget can be. Something that I want to emphasize as well is that you really need to start to get into budgeting if you haven't already, and you are someone who struggles with keeping money and not spending it, or if you are someone who is wanting to move somewhere in the near future. Right now, especially because we're in quarantine and some people are going back to work and starting to earn their money again, or some people are still not going out or not working right now. So I think now is the time for you to develop a budget and stick to it. My advice is just to create the budget and try to stick to it and try to be honest with yourself as well. If you are breaking your budget a lot, then there's probably a reason, and you're not allowing yourself enough miscellaneous money or leeway money to be able to figure out and meet your budget. So I would just say if it's not working for you, then take a look at it again and fix it. Change it so that it will work for you. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions about budgeting or anything like that, how I save money, all that kind of stuff, please leave them down below. and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you'd like to, you can check out my previous video on this side of the screen and my previous vlog on that side of the screen. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, save your money, and I will see you in my next video.